Hey guys, welcome to another video. This is your tutor Roland, and we're going to be doing the general rules in Afrikaans. So basically, Afrikaans is quite a simple language, not from a lower end of the spectrum. It's just a very simple, well-structured, easy to understand language. What you say is how you spell things. Your O's and O's and R's are very similar to that of the English language. If you're an English first language speaker, it should actually be quite an easy language to pick up. So in this video, we're going to just discuss the basic rules. In Afrikaans, we call it the Algemene Reels, and that's the general rules for Afrikaans. Okay, doesn't entail everything in Afrikaans, but it entails most of the basics that you'll need as a grade 8 or a grade 12 all the way through to do Afrikaans as a second language. Obviously, for your first language speakers, this video will be quite novice, so we'll have to build on that for the first language speakers. But this video isn't for first language speakers, it's for second language speakers. And so let's jump right in. We say that Afrikaans is a phonetic language, so it's based on the sounds of words and not on necessarily a linguistic language like English, where you've got changes. For instance, in English, you'd say honest, where you have the silent H, you'd say honest instead of honest. In Afrikaans, if you say honest, you spell honest. If you say honest, you spell honest without the H. So, how you say something is exactly how you spell it. And obviously, if you're going to spell something correctly, just think about how you would say it. So it's very important to actually understand how to say the Afrikaans sounds. So it's one thing that you write it as one word. So if it's one thing, for instance, like evening dinner, you'd just say aandete. You wouldn't say aand separated by a space and then write ete. It's a single action, therefore it's a single word. Very simple, where English is very confusing and we've got multiple different ways of writing things. Afrikaans is relatively simple from this point of view, which is actually quite nice. So now that you're struggling in Afrikaans, you can stop struggling and start doing a lot better with the confidence that the language is actually there to help you. It's a South African-built language. It's actually a coagulation of multiple different languages. Zulu, Xhosa, English, Afrikaans is like what one calls a bastardized language. It developed from the mines, and as a result, it's probably one of the most pure South African languages as a whole. So we always say that there are no C's, Q's, or X's, and if there are Q's, C's, and X's, then they come from sort of colloquial terms, slang, or from other languages. So for instance, you might say die kar instead of the motor. So some people would spell that with a C, but it's actually kind of being termed with a K. So unless you're stealing words from other languages, there won't be a C, a Q, or an X. So pretty much you're limiting your letters in your alphabet down from 26 down to 23, which actually seems to make things a little bit easier if you ask me. So if you're wondering ever in a test, do I write this with a C? Don't worry. Most of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to write the K sound or the K sound with a K. So that's very important to remember. Don't think that you can write things with C unless they are in different languages and we are importing them into the Afrikaans language. So our fourth rule, if it sounds like an F, that's an F in case you're not sure, then you're going to use the letter V. The letter V is the letter that one uses for the F sound in Afrikaans, or F, and you make sure to use V instead of F. So if I give you an example like vinger, you'd use the letter V and not the letter F. There we go. Most of the time. I mean, it's obviously there are going to be times where you do use the F, but it is very rare because just like we use the F sign to represent F in English, in Afrikaans you use the V sign to represent the sound F in Afrikaans. So if we look at faith, you've got VYF, or as you can see, my previous example was vinger. You use the vinger with a V, and there are many, many different words that you can use. So just generally remember that you're only going to use your V instead of the F. Right, there's another one. It's very similar to V. We call it W. In Afrikaans, it comes out as a V sound. We would say V would be V, but in Afrikaans, V, or basically the sound V is actually a W. So if you're thinking, okay, wêreld or woon, instead of using a V, you actually would use a W, quite surprisingly. You just need to reprogram your brain, keep an Afrikaans side purely for Afrikaans. When you're writing and thinking in Afrikaans, you need to be using the W instead of the V. All right, so for instance, you've got wit, wiskunde, en wetenskap. Now these all sound like they need to have a V in front if you're thinking in English. But if you switch your mind over and you think in Afrikaans, you instantly will realize that you use a W. All right, let's do number 6. The D and the T sound at the end of a word sounds the same. So where we have the T sound and the D sound, the Afrikaans linguistics would be more like the T would be the same. So you'd say vote, hout, goud. These all sound like the letter T. All right. So just remember that, store that in the Afrikaans side of the brain. And it's really important, I think one needs to highlight this, that the Afrikaans language is very different in certain respects, but very similar in other respects to English. It's not like an Arabic or a Chinese sort of language. It's actually very similar in terms of the language structure. So you need to just have a partition in your brain that you use purely for Afrikaans. Right, there's a silent E and a silent I. They sound the same because they don't sound like anything. So we make the vowel sound longer when we have the E and the I. So you'd say something like brei, and that would be B-R-E and then I at the end. Brei would sound like an A to us in English. Awesome. So you see you've got your vowel, consonant, vowel. In Afrikaans you'd say awesome, not just awesome or awesome. Woning, woning. You can see how the oo gets drawn out, so it sounds like it's woning, like woning. There we go. So just remember that if you've got vowel, consonant, vowel, and there happen to be an E or an I, this is a specific rule that is attributed to the Afrikaans language. If you see an E as your second vowel or an I as your second vowel, you need to draw out your first vowel. So like awesome sounds like awesome, 2 A's instead of 1, but you write it with 1 A. These are the sorts of secondary rules that you need to remember. Remember that we said in the beginning of the video, if you say something, the way you say it is the way you spell it. In this case, if you're using a vowel, consonant, vowel, you just need to remember that you drop one of the sounding letters. So if you have awesome sounds like AA, you just drop one of the A's. Now the kappie and the deelteken are another addition to the Afrikaans language that one doesn't have in the English language. So they are actually punctuation marks, and they are used to accent a particular letter in a word. The origin comes from French descent, as there's a lot of French in the Afrikaans language. The French came through with the French Huguenots when they landed in Cape Town. So once again, you can see another mixture of a European language in the Afrikaans language. So let's look at wereld. Wereld, can you see the difference? Ult sounds different to a. So it's almost accented upwards. So wereld, cool. There we go, you can see cool. So you've got ku, which is the oo sound of making the OE, making the oo, 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 oo kind of sound. And you've got which is made by the deelteken. So just remember that that is the sort of sound that the copy and the deelteken will make. Easy game.